So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the kickstart of this year's collaborative studio, the Co-Learning Program 20.0, a dynamic dialogue-driven platform that explores design through the lens of time. This year, as ASET completes 7 years and enters its 8th year of existence, we thank everyone for your continued support and participation in all of our endeavors. With Ethos ASET as the facilitator, this program encourages students, studios, and mentors to collectively reflect on how time, past, present, and future influences design thinking, processes, and outcomes. This initiative seeks to question, critique, and reimagine what it means to design for a future that is inclusive, resilient, and contextually rooted. This semester, 10 colleges, as recipients of the Saint Gobain Transparency 19.0 studio incentives, have come together for a reimagined collaborative studio, the co-learning program. We see this program as a series of 4 creatively curated lectures, interactive sessions with renowned mentors from the architectural fraternity that wraps up with a design mela, a virtual design exhibition showcasing selected work for cross mentorship from faculty from different colleges. The program has encouraged 24 undergraduate design studios from across the country that will be designing various build typologies in their projects from August to October 2025. We welcome Madhav Institute of Technology and Science, Gwalior, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, Campus, Tumkur, School of Architecture, Rewa University, Bangalore, Voxen University, Hyderabad, Coimbatore Institute of Engineering and Technology, Manipal School of Architecture and Planning, Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, Chennai, SJB School of Architecture and Planning, Bangalore, Nehru School of Architecture, Coimbatore, and Rachna Sansad's Academy of Architecture, Mumbai, as part of our co-learning program. May I now invite architect Geeta Balakrishnan to say a few words to all of us.
Thanks, Pooja. Good morning, everybody, and hi, Sonali.
Hi, good morning.
India inches towards its centenary of independence. Tagore's dream of waking up to freedom still seems distant, where he said, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Into that heaven of freedom, my father let my country awake. The design community, and as the group of colleges we are here together today, is called upon to reflect, reimagine, and respond to the often asked question, how do we look at ourselves in the future? What are these biases that we need freeing from? Do we imagine ourselves to be a part of an ecosystem that is inclusive, resilient, and rooted in our diverse realities? Designing through the lens of time gives us a framework to imagine how we can converge towards a collective journey of learning, unlearning, and innovation, sparking inspiration, setting trends, and shaping the future of the built environment, and in extension, the design of our country. We really have that power to shape how our nation should emerge. The co-learning program is an attempt at bringing students and faculty from across the country together to share their ideas on design and education, and also to bridge gaps between academia and practice by bringing in experts like we have Sonali today to interact with students. The purpose of this program is to support faculty in creating a meaningful studio experience through dedicated segments of review, interactions with experts. I hope that you find this to be a fruitful experience. As our collaboration with Transparence completes actually 20 years this coming year, we look back fondly to the countless practices and the people that have blossomed from this association. Morphogenesis has been part of the jury many, many years ago. I think Manit was there for one of the editions. For the Saint Gobain grants this time, we have a call to action, a vision for 2047, to think deeply and dream responsibly, to innovate and design something that matters. I'd request all the faculty here to check if any of your students would like to enroll for the same. As a part of this program, we have architect Anup Nayak from Urban Frame, Bangalore, talking about co-learn to design for the future. Architect Sonal Sancheti from Opolis, Mumbai, who's going to be talking about co-learn to design for tectonics. Architect Biju Kuryakos from Architecture Red, Chennai, talking about co-learn to design for people. and architect Sonali, Morphogenesis Delhi, today talking to us about co-learn to design for Earth, for the Earth. We are glad that Sonali could join us. I can assure you that her life is not easy with the many things that she does, but she's come forward today generously to be with you. Vox Populi sessions were conceptualized to bring in the voice of students into the co-learning program, and I'm glad that many students are excited about this. I now hand it over to Priyanka to take us through this Vox Populi session that we ran on Instagram over the past few weeks successfully. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you, Geeta ma'am. Sharing my screen right now.
You want to switch on your video? We'd like to see you. Yeah, it's nice. You can go full screen and start. Yeah, there you are.
Yes. So as part of our co-learning program, we introduced a series of Vox Populi sessions, which were student prompt sessions as part of the co-learning program. We were thrilled to share that over 40 plus Instagram stories were shared on our ASETs page, capturing all the various kind of different perspectives of the students. Yeah, so introducing the first prompt, which was show me a space where nature is winning or losing as part of architect Sonali Rastogi's talk for the Earth. We had a lot of participation and a dynamic involvement of all the students, and we had added it as add your story to Instagram, in which people could just keep retagging, and it led to a dynamic reach of a lot of students across India. So yeah. These were some of the colleges and studio colleges that participated in Vox Populi. We have around 9 colleges which were actively participated in this prompt chain. And these are some of the absolutely stunning photographs which were shared by the students from various kind of colleges in terms of where nature was winning and photographs where nature was losing as well. So I'm just going to highlight some of the nice photographs taken by a lot of students. So these were some of the wonderful photographs. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much. Over to you, Pooja.
Thanks, Priyanka, for setting the tone of the session with with those shared photographs. We will now have a Vox Populi conversation. The Vox Populi conversation is student-led and sets ground for the mentor's talk. Today, the students bring to you what they understand about the co-learning, to design for the Earth. What does this mean to them? So may I now request Amulya from SIT Tumkur to share her views on the larger idea of sustainability. Amulya.
Hello, everyone. I'll be sharing my thoughts on eco-learning and connectivity to the nature. For me, eco-learning is about learning with the environment. It's approach where the site, the climate, the culture, and the natural system all come together and help us to study. When I design, I observe how the sun moves, how the wind flows, and where the trees goes, and where rainwater travels. These observations guide my design so that it works with the nature, not against it. It's like nature guiding me. For example, if there is a large tree on the site, instead of removing it, I can design a courtyard around it, letting it become a focal point and a source of shade. In a hot climate, I can position for cross ventilation and natural cooling, reducing the need of artificial system. When even the choice of materials is a part of eco-learning. Using locally renewable and low-impact materials, we reduce waste, cut down transport cost, and keep the design rooted in the identity of the place. So coming to the connectivity to the nature, for me, connectivity to the nature is all about designing in a way that it keeps us in conversation with the natural world. It's not just placing a building into the greenery. It creates a relationship where the inside and outsider talk each other. In my design, I try to design spaces where light and greenery are part of the daily experience. This could mean adding courtyards, skylights, and shaded verandas, or greenery spaces in a frame. I want people to sit anywhere in the building and feel a visual or a sensory connectivity to the nature. This is all are my thoughts on eco-learning and connectivity to the nature. Thank you.
Thanks, Amulya. Thank you for that. May I now request Swastik from Voxen University to share his views?
Hello everyone, good morning. I'm Swastik from Oxford University. I'm going to talk about flora, fauna, biodiversity. So biodiversity to me means creating living spaces that respect and celebrate the natural ecosystem around us. In my design process, it inspires me to integrate greenery and create a harmonious balance between human life and nature. So this semester, as we are designing high-rise residential towers, I plan to incorporate vertical gardens and green terraces with native plants, landscaping to support urban life while improving air quality and residents' well-being. Coming to resource depletion, to me means recognizing that every material used in design comes from limited sources. It encourages me to think critically about how my work impacts the environment, pushing me to design efficiently, minimizing waste and creating buildings that last longer without draining the planet's resources. In my project this semester, I plan to use recycled and locally sourced materials, integrating rainwater harvesting, grey water recycling, adopting passive cooling strategies, incorporating solar panels to reduce non-renewable dependence on non-renewable sources. Coming to climate, microclimate, it to me, understanding and responding to the specific climatic conditions within and around my site. It's about observing sunlight, wind, shade, and humidity patterns to make design decisions that improve comfort naturally. I'm orienting the buildings in north-south direction to maximize natural ventilation using shading devices to block harsh summer sun and creating landscape terraces that cool the surroundings. Green roofs, water features, and strategically placed trees will further regulate temperature, enhance air quality, and create pleasant outdoor spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Swastik. May I now request Mahima Shri from Nehru School of Architecture, Coimbatore, to share her views.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mahima. I would like to share my thoughts on water bodies, greenery, and geotechnicality. So, for me, water and greenery always make me think of comfort and healing. In my clinic for special children, greenery isn't just a decoration; it becomes therapy. A sensory garden with plants to touch and smell, shaded outdoor play, and trees for calm spaces can support children emotionally. A small water body can cool the air and give a soothing sound. These elements create a peaceful atmosphere where the clinic feels less like a medical building and more like a place for care and joy. Geotechnicality studies make me think of invisible support that holds everything together for my pediatric clinic. It means checking how the soil, water ground, and rock layers will affect the structure. If the earth below is strong, the clinic stands firm. If not, I would adapt the design for safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahima. May I now request Balasaranya from Nehru School of Architecture to share her views?
No.
Please go ahead.
Okay, transportation connectivity for me means accessibility and ease of arrival. In my clinic for special children, families should never struggle to reach the building. Some may come by bus, others by auto or car, and many may walk. My design includes a drop-off zone, barrier-free entrance, and shaded walk paths. I want the journey into the clinic to feel smooth and welcoming, reducing stress for parents and giving children a safe and comfortable arrival experience every time they visit. So my thoughts on waste management is when I think about waste management, I see it as a responsibility in a periodic clinic for special children, because in my clinic the paper or food is also a waste, but in my periodic clinic, medical waste is also very important. So my design must have a clearance zone for safety disposable, recycling, and composite cycling. Children need a clean, hygienic place, and parents must trust the clinic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I now request Bhavya from Academy of Architecture to share her views? And if Bhavya is not around, probably Ketki.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm Ketki from Academy of Architecture, and I'll be talking about resilience. So, to me, resilience means creating spaces that bend without breaking. A shaded veranda that doubles as classroom in summer, or like a market that adapts to floods with raised platforms, shows how design can respond to change. In coastal villages, mangrove belts protect homes from storms, while rural settlements, rainwater harvesting ponds secure water in times of drought. Even simple strategies like using local stone for cooler interiors or courtyards that turn into gathering shelters during emergencies become everyday lessons in adaptability. So, ecological harmony is not about resisting nature but learning to move with it. When architecture adapts by using local materials, rainwater harvesting, or cooling with natural breezes, it becomes a partner in survival. So, for me, resilience is hope, the ability to communities to stand strong, not in isolation, but in harmony with their environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ketki. May I now request Joshika from MGR, Chennai, to share her views?
Thank you for the opportunity. To me, community development means designing with empathy and active engagement. This semester, we were given a task to design a bus terminal in a site in Kukkambakam, which is more on a rural side. For me, it's more than a transit facility, it's a social anchor. It provides access to jobs, education, and healthcare, linking rural and urban life. The terminal becomes a vibrant space with local markets, art, and shaded gathering zones. It supports small vendors, welcome diverse users, and reflects local rhythm by reducing barriers and encouraging interaction. So, this project reminded me that even everyday infrastructure can nurture the community when designed with care. Public space becomes platform for connection, growth, and transformation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Joshika. May I now request Chetan Patil from SJB School of Architecture, Bangalore, to share his views?
So for me, cultural-based ideas. Architects come from listening to the people who actually use the space. So I focus mainly on the community-based designing, working directly with the local residents or the place which has been used from the people. And it's not only creating the functional buildings, but also creating a space which is welcoming and building a community identity. So I try to make projects reflect within the people itself so that it makes encouraging and sustainability connecting the local identity. So this was my thought.
Thank you so much, Chetan. May I now request Vijay Kishore from MGR, Chennai, to share his views?
So hello everyone, myself Vijay Kishore. For my design and site choice with community-based design, it's about the remaining the forgotten space as opportunity for the people in the semester. We were working with the urban studio, so I chose with the urban voids of Fort Kochi. So those neglected and unused patch of the land that is slight admit with the vibrant life of the town. To me, they are not just an empty site, but potential platform for the cultural interaction and healing. My project aims to transform such a voids into the valuable community space, a place where people can gather, children can play, and the local tradition can happen over there. The design is rooted in the daily rhythms of Fort Kochi. It's a welcome to small vendors, artisans, and street vendors. Rather than the imposing the new identity, it's built on the collective memory for the community, weaving stories of the past with the aspirations. That's it.
Thank you, Vijay, and everyone for sharing your responses on what you understand co-learn to design for the earth can be. Those were a diverse set of inputs from your side. I would now like to introduce to all of you architect Sonali Rastogi, who's been kind enough to be a part of listening to all of you until now. Sonali Rastogi is the co-founding partner of Morphogenesis, ranked amongst top 100 architectural design worldwide and one of India's leading award-winning architecture and urban design practices. She graduated from the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, and the Architectural Association, London, with a graduate diploma in housing and urbanism under George Fiore, and a second graduate diploma in graduate design, DRL, under Jeff Kipnis. Her multifaceted creativity encompasses roles as an architect, urban design and planner, artist, writer, speaker, and innovator. Her works have featured in over 1,100 publications, both international and national, including the firm's monograph. With a special interest in history and theory of architecture, she has spoken at multiple prestigious colleges and conferences, including the Brown University Arts Symposium, the Design Leadership Summit New York, and the World Architecture Festival Berlin. She holds a fascination for materiality and craft in architecture and is deeply invested in carving details on building. A strong proponent of arts and crafts, she's a founder member of Manthan, a platform for creative individuals who seek to share, discuss, engage with, and evolve concepts and ideologies. A fellow of the Indian Institute of Architects and Royal Society of Arts UK, she also extends her impact on the built environment as a council member of the Delhi Urban Arts Commission. She's passionate about steering the discourse around the AEC industry to a responsible and responsive realm. Owing to the same, she is a regular speaker and presenter at reputed national and international institutions, conclaves, and conferences. She has also brought significant attention to gender issues in the architecture, engineering, construction industry. Today, Morphogenesis is an exemplar for the profession for equal opportunity and gender pay parity. Thank you, Sonali. Over to you, Sonali. We'd love to now give it over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Geeta. And I'm really overwhelmed with the number of students and for the number of different colleges listening in. So I'd like to thank all of you. It's been very interesting hearing that you all hijacked my speech by actually mentioning the topics that really matter. And I think I'm really happy to hear students from across the country talking about simple time memorial rules of fundamentals of sustainability, which is the environment, which is the sun, the wind, orientation, how the sun moves across the sky. We've talked about biodiversity, and waste management, resilience, transit facilities, community-based design, identity, and also neglected and marginalized lands, inclusion of communities. Now, I'm so happy to hear that, we are able to share ideas on all of this across platform, because whilst none of this was sort of unknown when I went to college, and so did Geeta, we were at college together in the late 80s and early 90s. None of this was unknown, but they were not such platforms where one could just log in and share ideas. There wasn't the internet where ideas were easily shared and exchanged, and knowledge of what people are doing in one place to absorb into another, that wasn't there. It was a precious to magazines that would arrive from somewhere in the library every month, and a chase for it to figure out exactly what others were thinking and doing around the world. Now, Palak, could you switch on the first screen, please?
Sure.
So I will spend about 2-3 minutes telling you about my time in the 90s and what I was thinking as a young architect, much like you all. So I went from SPA to UK in the search of finding out that of all these people who were writing an architectural record and architectural review magazine, which was so exciting, that what is this dialogue that they're all talking about? What are the topics around the world? So with that search, I found myself at the Architectural Association London, where many more topics were introduced by different architects coming to talk, much like you have given me the opportunity today. Talk to us at the AA about various things going around the world, whether it was an ism like a deconstructivism, or whether it was why certain kind of philosophies must be read in order to become a better architect, or whether it was what structural gymnastics is possible with the onset of computation, early onset of computation. And what people are doing in absolutely iconic, I mean, the first time I heard the word iconic architecture was in the mid 90s. We heard the word green architecture. It was not called sustainable, not termed sustainability at that point. So these were, I was thirsting to hear what the world is talking about. And at some point, it dawned on me that whilst great architecture was still going on in India, as always had, we are a land of architects, we are known for architecture. But it seemed that we were missing from a global conversation. In my 4 years spent at the A, one time, late Sri Charles Koreaji came and spoke to the students. Other than that, none whatsoever. So it seemed to me that we were greatly lacking in dialogue. And not being part of a dialogue, I felt was a two-way loss. One, it was a learning loss, and which is what people like Geeta have had the vision to make sure that there is an ongoing dialogue. So there is no learning losses. In fact, there are gains and a multiplier effect. And the world was missing out on architecture going on in India, good architecture that relied on our historic knowledge of how to build with less, how to be sustainable, how to build within the context. It wasn't known to the world what we had been doing, and somewhere history had also been lost to become part of the global discourse on architecture. So based around that idea, my partner Manit and I decided to return to India and set up a firm called Morphogenesis, which of course would make its own inquiry on topics of sustainability. And for those of some of you might know and some of you don't, Manit did a master's degree in environmental sciences at that time, which then of course today is called sustainability studies. Um, so we decided to come back to India, play our role, whatever little role it would have been, into infusing sustainability as as a common term in not only just in architecture but in layman language, and to do our bit to become to ourselves become and to lead others to becoming part of a global dialogue. And this still stays very much the vision of morphogenesis. Today we have coined a term called SOUL, sustainability, optimization, unique and livable. And they essentially cover all of those topics that the very erudite students have talked about earlier today. So, with that, I will take you through some of the projects over the years, and I will, whilst efforts to incorporate soul philosophy has been there in most of them, but I will highlight what I think were achievements in some of these projects. And I've picked up a very diverse set of projects because one of the things that I understood when I was in college, that the word green or sustainable in art in our times in college was thought of mostly as mud architecture or some experimental work done by agencies such as Hutco in stabilized brick or husk or and it was not essentially thought of as mainstream architecture. Uh, so our attempt has been to look at mainstream architecture from that lens almost all through. So with that, Palak, could you just move on to the first project? So this is Pearl Academy of Fashion. The reason I chose this because project to show was not only because we learned a lot from Rajasthani building technique of stepwells, baulis, chhajjas, jalis, and got inspired by Hawa Mahal. But more than that, it was the first time we were able to attract international eyeballs to a very low cost project built in the middle of nowhere. Palak, just keep changing the slides, please. These are all architects. They can understand the slides on their own. I don't need to explain. Yeah. So this was built in Kukas, an area outside Jaipur in the middle of nowhere, an industrial area. And it was an Academy of Fashion. And it was inspired. Palak, next slide, please. Yes, it was inspired by, look, you can see the images and you can understand for yourself what it was inspired by. And it was inspired by these elements, these visuals, these light and shadows plays, these aesthetic, is capturing capturing of, for example, let's say this old-fashioned insulation technique of matkas. So a lot, Palak, move on, please. So, and then simple philosophies such as source everything as locally as possible and work with the concept that just below the surface of the earth, we get an average annual temperature that makes it possible for water storage and Baulis in Rajasthan. Look at simple shade and shadow. Look at how the sun moves and literally carve out courtyards which are self-shading. And look at how water is stored. Now this is really beautiful drawings that we found, and just everywhere in this region water is conserved. Of course, what water were we going to conserve? We were only going to have a shallow water body which was storing all the recycled water. So this is all the STP water created by the 600 students who use this facility, and the water is used for cooling because hot air rises above, skims over the surface, becomes cooler, and it also creates that sense of inside outside that one of the students just talked about. But in this climate, to be able to live inside outside, water I think was really required. This you can see construction going on. You saw the ancient pictures, very similar. No great thought by us. It is just simply copying what has worked in this context. And this is the end product. So why this was very important project? Because in 2008 at World Architecture Festival, this project went out to win the category award for the best institutional building in the world. And it was pitted against some of the giants of international architecture at that time when India was barely heard of globally. I mean, within India, of course, we knew we had great architects working here, but this is why it became important. And as you can see how simple the building is. It was at that time built at 1,250 rupees or 1,300 rupees a square foot, all inclusive. There was no air conditioning, yet we were able to maintain an annual average temperature of 28 degrees. Air conditioning was only put in by the teachers who insisted on it. Split windows were put in the teachers' rooms. Otherwise, nowhere in the school was there any air conditioning. And the jalis, no, the school didn't have money to do beautiful stone jalis. These were cementatious jalis cast on site by workers who make boundary wall jalis all through Rajasthan. And they were simple cementatious jalis. And as you can see, the recycled water becomes the step well, and exactly like it happens in Baulis, when rainwater gets added for the rare rains, and the level goes higher, otherwise the level stays lower. And this is a place where students hang out a lot. And you can see, we talked about marginalized communities. So simple potters, 120 potters and jali makers found employment on this site for a year. Now, some of you will see the Griha baseline recommendation of 90 EPI, Energy Performance Index, which was what would be rated as a green building, platinum rated or 5-star rated. Here we achieved only 25, almost less than 30%. And so that's just how low the energy consumption is. And then this got published all over the world, various PLEA conferences, and gained momentum. And it seemed to develop a life of its own in international colleges. I believe it's in the curriculum of Cornell even now. And it has a timeline and a life of its own. It goes on finding ways in various conferences and papers and universities. So the next project I want to talk to you about is a very important project. Because this explores, rather it gave idea to decentralize urbanization when we worked on it. This is on a mountain top called Lodsi. This is it, as remote as this. And the last road that reached it was 2 kilometers before the actual site. And there is no electrification in this area. Now, today, this building, it was built during COVID. No one left this hill. They all worked here. They worked on the building. 60 families live on this hill, and in part or in whole, they worked hill. Whilst in the pandemic and lockdown, India's largest reverse migration literally on foot happened. And a lot of those people, I mean, there is no data actually, but the belief is over 40% of those people were construction workers, had to walk back home across the country, who have lost their rural employability. Whereas on this hill, no one left the hill. They worked on making this building and finally work on making the product, which is the entire forest essentials. It produces every single item of forest essentials that you see sold in 80 countries around the world. So we had designed the building just before COVID hit. During COVID, we looked at there was no labor force. So we looked at how, I mean, everyone from Bihar or UP returned to wherever they were. So we looked at what do the locals know how to build and how do we build this design with their technique. And the locals came who had come back from wherever they had gone to, came home during COVID. So they worked with us and we learned from them how to make this building happen during COVID. And today, almost all the employees in this building come from within this hill, even the ones who gather and forage herbs, the ones who boil the herbs, the ones who pack them into products, all of them come from this hill. So when we are looking at migration and people leaving, this one little 10,000 square feet project has kept all the people of this hill on the hill and they are all fruitfully employed. So this building consumes very little in energy. All of it is produced solar. In fact, we produce extra. And we talked about resilience. Everything there was once before there was an attempt to build the same factory on this site many years ago. Even the little steel and concrete that came out from the foundations of that abandoned structure, all of it was reused. Nothing was wasted. And consumption had to be reduced because there was no chance of getting anything from anywhere during COVID up to this site, which it couldn't even get a truck up here. In addition to that, it also acts because now this is a building on this hill. It also acts as a social integrator where when the women work here, the children who go to school on the next hill, they come back and they are here in the second half of the day as well. And then when the factory shuts at 5, it becomes evening school because it has enough energy. It has surplus energy gathered from the sun throughout the day. So you can see that the building, even how it is stacked up, what is below and what is above, what needs air and what doesn't, what needs light and what doesn't, as in the processes was figured out. And along with, of course, the process keepers, which are the people from the supervisors, which are from this hill, and including drying of herbs was done full. And it's not that whilst the building looks rustic, but it had the benefit of all the scientific inquiry that where does daylight penetrate to, what can it do to the herbs, how can we meet international standards, because Forest Essentials is partly owned by Estee Lauder, which some of you might know is one of the biggest manufacturers of cosmetics in the world. So they had very important standards that must be followed. So all of those were also followed. So it's not that by building locally, we cannot produce world class. This is a building approved by Estee Lauder because they own Forest Essentials as well. So nobody left the hill. Employment was created for all. Inadvertently, schooling has been created post 5 o'clock. And we learned from the local community, and nobody will need to migrate and leave their children up in the hills to go build buildings for us all across the country. You can see everything, every bit of timber, everything was saved. And these are the children running in from the other hill post school to come in and study here. And you can see various women across the hill. Some come just for animal husbandry because the ghee, the cow's milk and ghee is used for Ayurvedic products. Some just bringing herbs, some sorting and drying, some boiling, some packing. And you can see the entire solar energy, and nothing got wasted. Not a piece of metal, not a piece of I section, nothing got wasted. And that is the building up there. So again, this building, so it's important. We believe in discourse. So it's not that Plea found us. Of course, in many of these cases, we go out and we write to various conferences around the world because Indian architecture needs to be seen. Our successes need to be celebrated. So across the world, we apply, it gets accepted, and various students, sometimes young architects, write these papers supported by Morphogenesis, supported by Manit and myself. Both Isha Anand and Arushi Juneja, who are co-authors with me, are also both students of sustainability and then now senior architects. So they wrote these papers. Now I'll take you to something which offers a completely different imagery. It's in Chennai Radial Road. Now you would imagine, as we often believe that these glass buildings cannot be anything but energy guzzlers, but that is not really the case. If because we talked about identity earlier. Now identity is not identity just from the past. And Indians are very much part of the global language today for global sharing, and their aspirations are what they are, their ambitions are what they are. And one is, as much as we want to wear a trouser and a shirt, uh, we that much also somewhere aspire to be part of an international visual narrative. And I'm here not here to comment whether that is right or wrong. There is place for all kinds of narratives. Now, in order to achieve this, which is a typical IT park, young IT population occupying it, how to do it with and make it net zero. So this is the first net zero campus, IT campus in India. Sustainable eco-labeled materials, 46%, 90% of construction waste diverted to landfills, 10% of materials were prefab, 2.5% of materials were recycled. So reduction on dependency of virgin construction materials. So then many strategies, you can see them all listed. I will not read all of them out, but this project achieved net zero waste and net zero on waste, developed a green procurement policy which will be followed all through the life cycle of the project. So there are ways where we can achieve every architectural ambition and still go towards the net zero goals set by our government, and not say, oh, but we really need to convert everyone into not building with glass or not building with this. I don't think there is any need to have a homogeneity of architecture in order to achieve our net zero goals. It can be achieved with every kind of architecture, is my belief. Palak, proceed. Yeah. So there is a huge atrium, which is a ventilated atrium in the center of it, which also talks about in these large campuses, as one of you mentioned that you always try to bring green up to your high-rise buildings. So that is biodiversity and feeling closeness to nature extremely important. Now, whether that's outside or that green comes inside and becomes part of your daily experience. So this massive project, you can kind of get a sense of the scale from this diagram, but it has green inside, outside. Everybody, every single person working in the office, every time they get up from their desk, standing in that one position, can see green, whether it's internal or external. That is an inside picture of the project. Now, phase 2 and phase 3 are under construction now. So very high density project, but you can see in high density, a certain kind of aesthetic, you can see the net zero certificates it has already achieved. Energy, water, and waste, net zero, and has a well rating. So we've looked at the kind of air people breathe, the mental well-being, all of those topics have been looked at. Now, this is the Infosys campus in Nagpur. Now, Infosys has been kind of a front runner in demanding lesser and lesser use of energy. This project is in Nagpur and it's next to a lake, and it is a campus of which the first building is now built. So it has not only met sustainability targets, of course, that's part of the brief, but it also worked towards giving a unique morphology coming out of the location that this is sitting on 22.5 degrees latitude. And therefore, just by simply placing buildings in a certain way, we can get a self-shading which can shade most part of the building throughout the day, and rest of it is taken care of by arranging shading fins, and the building doesn't have a single blind because of that. So that connect between indoor and outdoor is maintained. This also, so you can see the amount due to the 22.5 degrees tilt of the building form, you can see how we've increased the amount of time for which the building is shaded. It is shaded for more than 80% of the day and has zero glare. So these were various permutation combinations. The first building is the simplest one that has been built, which is the bottom left on the beginning, but more complex forms following the same 22.5 degree twist and juxtaposition of forms against each other, stacking up one on top of the other. So various forms were simulated, and earlier what we used to do heuristically now was simply simulated on the computer to prove that this philosophy works. And of course, today and this was done before the AI softwares became available. So into this model, we could add soil bearing capacity and other things that allow us to understand what form would touch the earth most likely. And even that was built into the calculation of these forms, and based on that, certain forms were chosen and certain rejected. So this, you can see how the concept was developed, and programming, connecting and orienting, shaded, how to do shade, and why use the shading elements to actually create an identity. So because it was important that with new kind of urbanization happening across India, where there are these townships which are being created just slightly away from older towns, like this is Mihan outside Nagpur, so that they are just barren fields. So where does one begin to create identity was a question we set ourselves with. So the energy performance, you can see here that we reduced by 52% what was considered the best achievable standard. So conventional benchmark for energy performance was 90 kilowatt hour per square meter per year. Achieved was 46.76. So it wasn't just enough. It isn't just enough, wasn't just enough, and shouldn't be for all of you to just say, okay, I've achieved platinum standard or I've achieved Griha 5 star. I mean, who decides these standards, right? They are set when people think that's a good idea. But I think always challenging what's a good idea and making it better is really what I'm looking forward to from all of you all. So here we you can see the color that you see on the facade. So now we are trying to have an identity. And then we got this playful idea that ragas that have originated in this area. We took one of the architects in the office, was very interested in music and classical music, and came up with the idea of matching colors which add warmth and which will reflect warmth inside the office, and adding the rhythm of music and creating this. Now you can see in an IT low cost, low budget interior, which is very simple, but color and playfulness and a sense of sort of ownership of a visual has started with the kind of bounced color and warmth that comes in from the outside to the inside of the project. Now, this is part of the study to control solar radiation, that what angle requires what kind of shading angle. So buildings are in India still very cheap compared to internationally. So it's not that we can afford sensors that would move these louvers and those kind of gadgets that would allow it. So no. So these had to be fixed. So they were fixed for optimal gain and yet not blocking view, and it became almost like an urban art canvas, the entire building facade. And this is the study for what we wanted to do and how the musical notes became part of the entire color rendition. And you can see different angles, different facades. Now these are IT in companies. A general age group is between 25 and 28, mostly people who work here. So we thought it was important even in the interiors to bring a little bit of flair and fun, a little bit of sense of the fact that you are sitting in the shade of a tree. Of course, that's not the case, but this is just more fun. Now, what you see on the top here, if you notice carefully, these white fins with wires coming out. Now, what was done was a closed loop system of radiant cooling was created instead of air conditioning, where again STP water comes in, gets chilled and sent into these pipes. So instead of air conditioning, we have air cooling done through these baffles on top, which are carrying recirculated water and chilling the air around it. And cold air, as you know, is heavier, so it comes down and cools the body temperature. There is no whirring sound, there is no air conditioning running here. This is how it is cooled. And then, of course, we talked about identity. So our attempt is always to bring in, whether through carving, whether through drawing, through local artists, take help of graphic designers to rationalize it. But we try to always let people know where they belong simply by being here, and what is the background and what is the history and what are the points to be proud of. So carving in buildings is not something we take claim to. This is something we've done from times immemorial, and this is how artisans have been involved in our building. We are just making sure that we are not losing that opportunity. Carry on, Palak. Yep, and again, I'll not go through this in detail, but it's the same. We always attempt, it's not sufficient to just build the building, but it's sufficient to let the world know what we are achieving in India. So then starts the entire conferences, lectures, talks, publications, and actually the world requires proofs and metrics. So here are proofs and metrics, and when you go to conferences, you've got to measure things, you've got to prove that you've achieved this. So that's why it becomes important. It's a validation of what you have done. Surat Diamond Bourse, another COVID project. So this was a global competition for bringing together 70,000 diamond workers in one building. And it was the world's largest office building. So this was not even Surat actually, it is a place called Dream City, 20 minutes outside Surat, where a community got together to solve its problem. This is a community of diamond workers, which wakes up at 5 usually every morning, travels by 3.5 hours to Mumbai, then another half an hour to their office, then works there all day and another 3.5, 4 hours to come back home. So 8-hour work day, 8-hour travel day, 16 hours simply goes in that. So these are people who, whilst they stay in Surat, still don't see their families more than once a week. Now, for us, you saw those pictures of airports. So we had to think about getting these many people into office within 15 minutes. Like they all get to office at the same time, right? So those many cars, those many people. So architecture suddenly didn't become now a young lady talked about transit facility. So this was an architecture literally of a transit facility, not of an office. And all those people had to not come through the day, they had to come in 15 minutes and in a secure way and leave in 15 minutes in a secure way. So we actually did a full analysis. This was a competition and we did an analysis of how people should move in order to, in a very, very efficient way, reach their offices in the shortest period of time. So we set ourselves a target that a person must get from the entry point in the boundary wall to their office in under 10 minutes, because the best amount of energy saved is human working energy, really. So we managed to achieve 7 minutes. We simulated it. Lots of easily available apps to do that today. And that's how we won this global competition. Of course, it followed all the sustainability parameters, which are fundamental and simple, to create microclimates. in order to use the outdoor indoor space in a productive way. We also tried in this project to not take away from the Gujarati culture, which is a lot of it sitting together, getting tiffins delivered, eating together, talking, not through the phone, but actually stepping out of your office. Like, if those of you who are from Mumbai would know that even in the diamond trading areas, they will trade under a tree, they will talk to other bhais, and and they will exchange potlis here and there and everywhere. I mean, as much work happens outside the office as it happens inside the office. So we tried to make sure that entire culture stayed alive. Not to say be disciplined and sit inside your office, because that's not the culture. And to community based design was what we decided was the way to go. Now, green lungs were introduced throughout the project circulation spine, lungs like you see like this. Now, this is integrated landscape on the inside, and this has hot air rises up, and then there's ventilation on the top of each of these atriums. Now, this was done because this community works, we observe, works under trees, they sit on roadside sort of benches, and they talk up, they trade. So we decided that they are going to continue and should want to continue doing that. So the entire circulation is interspersed with these vertical gardens that allow for people to continue this cultural manifestation of how they work. And the indoor outdoor usage of the courtyard. Of course, everything is microclimate oriented. So at any point of the day, depending on where the sun is in the sky, 4 courtyards at least are shaded. The distance, the height of buildings and the distance between buildings was also calculated based on the shading parameters. Now, there was a 10 degrees reduction in internal ambient temperatures because you will see in images later, we just simply removed the windows. So there are holes in the wall, but there are no windows. Um, and also radiant cooling, as you see, was here used on the floor. Now, this is simple pipes which run the recycled water. We are not. So the only other place which has used radiant cooling at this large scale is the entire Bangkok Swarnabhumi airport. That also has reduced its air conditioning in requirement by doing this. So we actually just copied Swarnabhumi airport. Just this was marginally larger. But this is how we were able to reduce the air conditioning requirement of the project. Those holes that you see in the building on the top right, those windows are actually holes. They are not windows except on the ground floor where there are banks and certain security was required. So they are banks, they are couriers, they are export promotion council offices, they are diamond traders, diamond polishers. Everything that is required for the diamond trade happens in this building. The aim was to have 90% of all diamonds in the world pass through this building, whether for trading, for making jewelry, for polishing, cutting, or any one of the processes. So as you can see, even the public furniture that is placed here is of a certain public scale. And this scale, because it's so large, it's like an airport, like a few chairs were going to serve nothing. And a lot of the inspiration for all the ornamentation of the project came from the diamonds, the maritime culture of this location. And so that's what you see here. And this is the entire entrance of the project lit up at night. I think this image was taken just before the building inauguration. What you see on the right hand side is a diamond club where international diamond sellers and buyers come, and various events are hosted over there. This, as you is part of the green lungs. These images are taken pre the handover of the building. Now they are lush and green and thick trees for which people to work with. And this is what the project looks like. in the day. Again, it was measured, accepted as at the default, one of the most well-known energy conferences in the world, uses very little energy, and it's a mega structure. It's a mega structure where hybrid techniques have been used to reduce energy consumption. It's not to say, okay, we can do this in small buildings or sustainable buildings and it can't be done in large buildings. This is a mega structure. It made it to the Guinness Book of World Record as the world's largest office building, single building in the world. Yep. So these are the projects I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Sonali, for that lovely talk. And I think there was a whole plethora of information for all of us to assimilate, to start applying to all our design studios. And I believe that all the students have found it truly enlightening. We now have a set of questions which we have collected prior. What I would do is I'll pose these questions to you, and we could have a conversation about the questions. Meanwhile, if there are students who would like to type out questions specifically that have not been collected before, we could do that as well. So we could take a set of questions that have already been collected before, and just in case we've not collected a set of questions from colleges who suddenly want to kind of ask as a response to Sonali's presentation, we can do that as well. So Sonali, is that okay? Can we do that?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So I'll just begin with what we had collected already. We have Vijay Kishore from NGR Chennai asking, in your practice, how do you integrate sustainability, not just as a technical requirement, but as a design driver from the concept stage? How do you do something like that? Not as a requirement, but as a design driver.
So I think that's exactly what I've spoken about today. I mean, I don't see the possibility of actually thinking about design without sustainability. Like, how do you start? Do you not? I mean, I think from day one when we join architecture, we are told to do a site study. So what is the site study? Site study is understanding where the site is, where the sun is, where the wind is, where the soil, what the soil is about, who are the people around the site. Like when we are taken on our site trips from when we are in college, that is what we study. So what do you do with that information? That is the fundamental building blocks of how you start thinking about design. And has always been, in my opinion, has always been. It's not something that I've invented or colleges have invented. This is how design has always been thought about. So I think somebody who doesn't study and understand where we are located and what is the environment around us, what are our natural resources which should be used and those which should not be used, and what are our human resources available. I mean, without that, to me, there is no starting point.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely true. His next question asks, what skills or mindsets do you think emerging architects must cultivate to stay relevant in the rapidly evolving architecture industry?
So I think the skills that everyone must inculcate today, I think not just architects, but everyone, is to actually once more reinvent how they think, like they did with the onset of information available. I would say, let's say the information age that we live in, and which started with the internet and how information became available and how to use that information. I think now with the huge amount of research basis that becomes available due to AI, right? I think is a great opportunity to understand that how the mundane processes of creating architecture or urbanism, the mundane processes can be automated using AI so that the mind has even more creative freedom to think and have many research assistants to assist in that freedom to think.
True. There's one more question from him where he says, Morphogenesis has grown into an internationally recognized firm. What were the key steps in scaling from small beginnings to large projects across India and beyond? So something more
So
about the journey.
the practice was started by just Manit and me, and we stayed to that for the first 7-8 months. Then we got all we could afford was a few drafting assistants part time, and those were the times we were still half manually drafting. And but I think essentially it the entire vision to be seen and to be heard took precedence over everything. So even when we thought, oh God, where is the time to work or to go talk to students or to go do juries or to go search out opportunities where we can talk about the small little interior we built as a first project. We never shied away from being seen and heard and becoming part of a dialogue. And that helps mature your own mind, helps you become a better listener so you're able to understand what the need across the table is, right? And we never lost vision in the day-to-day running of a firm. At no point did we lose vision and mission with why we started. And I think that it was a two-way street. It helped us grow, and we were able to give back to our industry.
I think a lot of the students look up to the whole process that you have been through. So Joshika posts.
Journey has been quite fulfilling, yes.
Joshika posts a question where she asks, what trends do you see shaping the future of architecture in India and globally?
Trend is a word that I stay away from completely, because architecture is a long-term profession, and its impact, I always say architecture is like a crystal ball. You can see the past and you can predict the future by seeing the shape of things to come from. So an architecture is really the only footprint that, like when we excavate, what do we look for and what do archaeologists look for? They mostly find architecture and artifacts, right? From which they even try to piece together what were civilizations doing. And what we build today is going to be showing what the future generation is going to be there, because these buildings will live for 100 years, maybe more. So I don't believe in the term trend at all. And there can't be one trend. With the millions of architects that are around the world, how can there possibly be a trend? Right? I think the trend is always about ways to think. So hopefully the trend is sustainability at the moment, and hopefully it accelerates its pace. Hope AI forms a good research backbone for most architects to feel more empowered. Okay. To me, ways of thinking can be trends, not architecture is not a trend.
Yeah. Thanks. We have a set of questions from Srivaru, again from NTR. He asks, how should one not impact the environment negatively through design and make it ecologically sound and socially justified?
Sorry, just give me 1 second, please.
Sure.
Sorry, I am, as you all know, I'm sort of out of the country. So at the moment, I have been getting reminders that I need to leave for my flight. But okay, carry on. I'm sorry, I might hide my screen because I'm doing up things which I'm supposed to sign and do all this. Okay, hang on a minute. Okay, carry on. Just ignore me. Just carry on asking the questions.
Yeah, sure. So Srivaru from MGR University asks, how should one not impact the environment negatively through design and make it ecologically sound and socially justified?
I think I showed you many techniques today, but most of it again works around the same thing. That how you have to understand the site, the context, the people, socio-cultural context. That how are people, what do they want, what are they looking to do, and do it all within the framework of sustainability. Always optimizing the cost because architecture is an expensive profession and it costs a lot of money to build, and the more resources you use, and I'm not saying everything needs to be low cost and low resource, but resource should be optimized, and should achieve the maximum that it can.
True.
And that's what one needs to be very, very mindful of.
Absolutely. Yes. Which brings me to the next question, which asks, and this is interesting because they say, do we have to give up on luxury to follow sustainability? If so, then what are the alternatives? Is it an either or? Is something that they're asking, luxury and sustainability.
So that's what I thought was the case when I started my practice. And simply because we'd been, as I said, we had been taught to think that only mud architecture is good architecture, or only that is the only way for sustainability, or things like that. But actually, it's not. Because you see, there is no one solution that fits all, right? There's no one solution that can work for everything in this world. The world is not such a homogeneous entity, right? So it is. And you've seen that there are ways in the largest project in the world to achieve sustainability. There are ways in very small, unheard of locations to achieve sustainability. So it's about setting the target that you cannot solve every problem in the world with everything. So what are the problems? What are you addressing? Is what needs to be understood. And then that has to be approached in from a sustainability perspective, for socio-cultural sustainability, financial sustainability, and so on and so forth.
Sure. Vignesh asks a question on Ashlesha from Academy of Architecture has this question that in India's rapidly urbanizing context, how can architects practically balance client demands, budget constraints, and genuine sustainability?
So I think that question only comes because you think that these are problems. Neither are client demands problems, because architecture, what is the purpose of architecture if it is not fulfilling a human need? Like, there is no purpose. Architecture has to fulfill a human need, otherwise why have architecture altogether, right? Even the basic, even cave architect, even people who lived in caves, they had a purpose for why they were living in the cave. It was providing shelter, right? So every single client demand, it's not a demand, it's the reason why you build architecture, right? Cost is a resource. So if the resource is limited, like when you're building in Rajasthan and you know you're going to be hitting 50 degrees temperature, that's a limitation. So if cost is a limitation, it is. That's what your architect's for. If you take all these things as your adversary, then that's why the problem arises.
True. To kind of turn it and look at it from the positive side will help the students for sure. She also asks another question, and has there been a project where sustainability goals have fallen short? And what did you learn from the experience? Has there ever been a case where you were not able to achieve a certain sustainability goal? And what were the learnings out of something like this?
So, I can say for the last maybe 15 years, that's never happened. because the goals we set are so high. I mean, they are way higher than what client expectation is. So even let's say I'm trying to achieve 25 EPI and I get to 35, but the client was only expecting 90 in any case, right? So, but I think we fall short all the time because I think we need to be net zero. I think we need to be net zero on everything because when we say that, okay, for our nation, Prime Minister declares that the goal of our country is to be net zero by so on. So how can you be zero if you're not building zero every time you're building? You can never be zero if you're not zero every single time you're building, right? So I just think that as a nation, if we have to get to that goal, we have to be zero every time. So each one of us is failing. Okay, each one of us is failing. So it's a constant struggle from that perspective. In the beginning, we had many more so-called failures because green architecture, when I started practice, was understood as growing grass on your rooftop. Okay. And then every single sustainability measure was seen as an added expense to the project. And money always wins, huh? Money always wins. So when something was seen as an added expense, either you prove it that it isn't. And now with a lot of government measures available, subsidies available, mostly it's not more expensive, and we are able to prove it, and we are able to offset. Sometimes when something is more expensive, we are able to offset, the cost somewhere else, and can prove that it's getting offset, right? So it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle from learning, not from failing. Because you will always fail because we haven't, I think we are very far away from making everything we touch net zero.
True. That's absolutely true. I'll just pause here for a bit, Sonali. I'll just check the chat box if there are people who would want to ask questions here.
Yeah, I will also be signing off soon because otherwise I'll miss a flight.
Sure. So is there
what we could do, Sonali, is in case there are questions, we could just email them to you. Instead of writing back, you could just speak them out. Someone can record it or audio record it and send it to us and we'll put it up.
Yeah, sure. Palak will be happy to do that.
Okay, right. Does that work, Pooja?
Yeah, I think we can do that. We can send forth a list of questions that have been...
And we can just add it to the LMS. So anybody in the future also can access the...
Yeah. All right. Then I think... thank you so much, Sonali, for that valuable time that you shared with us. I mean, here's to looking out for more conversations like this. I think the students have truly benefited out of everything that you shared. And the intent of this co-learning program is to bridge gaps between industry and academia. And when students look at you, practicing and the decades of practice and the kind of projects that you bring forth, for all of them to see in their completion, I think it's truly inspirational for all of them. Thank you so much again for that, for all your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.